good, and it will help that screw run right in, whether it's going into Douglas fir or white oak. I'm going to show you half a dozen or maybe 8 or 10 useful tricks and tips and things that will get you out of a jam when you're trying to screw things together and you break something or you've got a problem. Anyway, there's some tricks. I'm going to show you a few of those, but before we do that, the first low-hanging fruit is, which one of these, dial soap, finishing wax, Croil, or just a light oil, is a pretty good lubricant when you're trying to run a screw into a piece of wood, whether it's a soft wood or a hard one. Bar of soap's a little dry. Now, sometimes you don't have to do that if it's been recently in the shower and used, and that's not going to make much difference. But what we're trying to do is get the soap to stick to the nail just a little. Now we're going to put just a little bit of paste wax on a couple of screws. Slippery. And last one, we're going to spray a little bit of Croil on another one of these screws. All right, so this is solid white oak. This is Croil, this is paste wax, this is dial, and this is just drywall screws. Let's see how they do. We'll start down here with the Croil. Oh, broke right at the end when I tried to run the head in. I'll stop a little sooner because it went in pretty good. Nope. Boy, that paste wax worked. Soap. That broke. Went in though. So that was pretty inconclusive. I think that the place that it would make the biggest difference is if you were trying to do this by hand, right? Or with a Yankee screwdriver, because in the age of 20-volt impact drivers, this is loaned to me by a friend, by the way, couldn't find my Makita. But in the age of these things, probably soap on a screw is not as big a deal. But if you got to run it in by hand, or if it's fussy and you can't get this thing in, or you left it at home, I think I would go with soap every time. All right, so all the theoretical testing aside, this is where the rubber meets the road with installing screws that you don't want to mar, not wanting to strip, and not wanting to make a mess. So we're going to pull this out of that piece of oak and demonstrate where it is that soap really comes in handy. Now, even though that hole has already got threads in it, it's still, I'm just demonstrating, you can just, when you're putting door hardware in, just give that screw just a little help. Just a little help from its friends, and put it in there. And that, my friends, is easier. Boom, and nobody cares about that. Now, another problem that perhaps is more frustrating is when one of the screws strips out. So this screw right here is stripped. You see that? That's the same screw, but it's just, let's say it's 100 years old and the door's been replaced and knocked off its hinges so many times that the screw is just not holding anything. So what you do with that is, the hole is no good, so you make it better. You take a little piece of material. This is a piece of cedar, which is pretty soft, right? A lot softer than the oak. You could do it with oak if you wanted. You split off something to drive in there. That's a little more than we need. Leatherman keeps you on the road. I'm going to take that down just about like that. That's going to drive right in, so I'm going to give it a little wood glue treatment. So the end of that is going to cause a little bit of a problem around the head of the screw. So I'm going to get in there with the tip of my Leatherman and just get rid of some of that material that's out here against the hinge itself. See that? So the cedar is still in there. The hole is now essentially filled back up. Now you don't push too hard. You let the screw get a hold of everything it can get a hold of. And then once it starts in, you just let it pull itself in. And when I have to take this hinge off next time, that'll be the screw that complains the hardest. You remember how those drywall screws snapped off if I tried to pull them down into the wood? You prevent that with a bit like that. It's